Back Matthew Stafford. Stafford participated in the Rams' first day of organized team practice activities despite his demands for more guaranteed money or an extension. Stafford signed a 4-year deal worth $160 million in 2022, but his contract is not guaranteed after the 2024 season. Keep your radar up to see how Stafford handles this situation. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hi, Tavis Smiley here. We're getting closer to June 18th, and time is running out for you to register to join us for our historic symposium live on C-SPAN, Tuesday, June 18th, 4 to 7 p.m. at the California Science Center in Exposition Park. Admission is free, but you must register at KBLA1580.com right now if you want to be in the audience when the nation will see for the first time ever a stage full of brilliant black folk talking about the urgency of now. Climate justice, climate equity, climate resilience. It's all going down. Well, it's actually all going up. Tuesday, June 18th, 4 to 7 p.m. live from the California Science Center in Exposition Park. Again, admission is free, but we're filling up fast. So if I were you, I would log on right now to KBLA1580.com to reserve your seat. Caring about the climate, caring about the community. We're KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. So as you know, this is a 3-hour program, and on any given day, I never know how the dots are going to connect, but that could be the theme song for today's show. It's all about trying to stay alive. I mean that literally. In our first hour, we talked about Israel, Hamas, the ICC, Joe Biden calling that decision to seek arrest warrants for Bibi Netanyahu and Hamas leaders. Biden called it outrageous. Then he stepped in a little deeper and said what's happening in Gaza is not genocide. That's the president. It's not genocide. We're talking about staying alive. The humanitarian crisis is getting worse in Gaza, talking about staying alive. Then we move to our second hour, talking about black folk in Hollywood trying to stay alive and the whole creative process and what it means in this present moment to be trying to advance your artistic gifts in Hollywood and stay alive. And so in so many ways, that song could be the theme of today's program. Again, I never know how dots are going to connect from one hour to the next, but I am delighted to have finally arrived at this third and final hour today because I've been waiting for this conversation. I told you earlier that I love talking to black philosophers because you never know when, where, or how the conversation is going to pivot from, how might I put it, one polar principle or theory to another. And I just have fun trying to keep up. Because at their best, African-American philosophers engage and challenge us to engage with a body of social, cultural, and political thought that hopefully leads to the advancement of our race. I told you at the top of the show 2 hours ago that if you have never heard Dr. Lewis Gordon on this program, he tends to not disappoint. And I invited you to stick around for this third and final hour now that we are joined by noted philosopher Dr. Lewis Gordon, who I'm pleased to welcome back to this program. First of all, Dr. Gordon, how are you, sir?
I'm all right, Tavis. How are you?
If I complained, I'd be an ingrate. I am doing well, and all things considered, and delighted to be in dialogue with you once again. Let me just jump right in because I know it's going to be a rich hour, and there's a lot to cover. And I think again, as I intimated moments ago, there's so many dots that we will connect in this hour, and I love having guests of your ilk and your brilliance who can just flow. And we're gonna flow through this hour because there's a lot to get to, and we'll let it do what it does. But I do want to start here, and then we'll let it do what it does. We talked in the first hour, as you heard me say a moment ago, about this decision by the ICC, the International Criminal Court, to seek arrest warrants for Bibi Netanyahu and other military leaders in Israel, military and other leaders in Hamas on the other side. President Biden came out forcefully against that, called it outrageous, as I said a moment ago, and suggested there was a false equivalency. Israel, of course, pushed back on that rather immediately. News broke today that Amal Clooney, wife of George Clooney, Mr. Hollywood, was involved with the ICC as a human rights lawyer, helping them to make that decision to seek these arrest warrants. We talked about staying alive and whether or not Hollywood now is going to treat George Clooney like they did Paul Robeson, given what George Clooney's wife we now know has done, and she doubled down on it today, not backing up on her role in this process. And then news comes today that 3 countries, Norway, Ireland, and Spain, have announced that they will recognize Palestinian statehood. So it's been a busy, busy day around here. And again, nobody can connect the dots the way you do. I want to start with the Israel-Hamas thing because I know, and I share with the audience who may not have known, that Lewis Gordon is both black and Jewish. That's interesting. And so I don't want to color this beginning any more than that. But I am curious, as an African-American who is also Jewish, how you are processing, how you are navigating all of this moment, as it were, with regard to the Middle East.
Well, to begin with, Tavis, as you probably surmised, when I said all right, I was being polite and rhetorical because this is a period of great despair. It's a very difficult period. I should add, because it's rather interesting when I mention being Jewish. There are people there are a lot of presumptions of how some folks would understand what a Jewish person is, particularly a black Jewish person. But my Jewishness comes through my mother, and my mother was Jewish on both sides. Her mother's side were from Jews from Ireland, Sephardic Jews, and her father's side were Jews from Jerusalem in the 19th century. And those Jews were called Palestinian Jews. So in my childhood, we were referred to as Palestinian Jews. It's complicated, of course, because a lot of people don't know the history of the area, because the area wasn't always called Palestine. It was actually expanded into that name under the Romans. So Judea, a few other areas that were where the people historically we know as Jews were not. That was not Palestine. So you hear people saying things that misrepresent the past. For instance, I've seen posts that said, say Jesus was a Palestinian, but that makes no sense because the area became Palestine after his death. So that's a more complicated story. But the basic point is that for a lot of the Jews who had remained, the Romans, in an act of ethnocide, with aims of genocide, renamed the area Palestine.
Hold that thought. Once, I'm sorry, Doc. I apologize. Hold that thought. Ethnocide, genocide, 2 terms. I'm going to have him link and decouple rather, if he needs to. I'm making up my own words here today. Link or decouple, as it were. We'll let him do it in his own way, but keep those 2 things in mind. Ethnocide and genocide. We'll pick up on that part when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
From Leimert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
Hey y'all, Mona Swain here from Target's new YouTube series, My Cart is Full, where we feature Black founders and creators highlighting their connection to our community. As an actor and content creator, I love using my voice to inspire young Black women who look like me. When it comes to feeding my shine, seeing myself reflected in Black-owned and founded products at Target brings me joy. Together, we are Black Beyond Measure. Learn more at target.com/blackbeyondmeasure.
Cookie wants to be a professional wrestler. I'm Cookie Serratos, and I'm 11 years old.
She also wants to win all the medals. That's why Cookie and her family make every day count, squeezing out her best with Go-Go Squeeze.
Okay, Cookie, let's break for a Go-Go Squeeze.
Go-Go Squeeze fruit-on-the-go pouches are a nutritious snack made from 100% fruit with no sugar added.
Call Cookie!
Because when you nurture your kids, you squeeze out the best in them. Squeeze out the best with Go-Go Squeeze. Not a low-calorie food. Products range from 11 to 13 grams of sugar and 60 to 70 calories per serving.
Every day, millions face challenges that go unseen. Mental health issues affect not just individuals, but the relationships that matter most to them. Over 80% of those suffering with mental health conditions acknowledge the strain on their families. Parents grappling with depression or anxiety find even simple tasks overwhelming. At work, challenges can lead to communication breakdowns, jeopardizing careers and professional relationships. For those caring for loved ones, burnout is a stark reality. The weight of caregiving responsibilities can feel insurmountable. Children, too, feel this impact, often taking on more at home, sacrificing schoolwork and time with friends. But there's hope. Seeking support can change lives. This Mental Health Awareness Month, let's heal the relationships that matter most to us. It's okay to pray and get help. Visit normalizehelp.org for more information and resources.
My friends swim no matter the season, but my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis can sometimes take me out of the moment. Now, thanks to Skyrizi and clear skin, count me in. With Skyrizi, risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. 3 out of 4 people achieve 90% clear skin at 4 months.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis, and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
Sounds different, huh? This is Tavis Smiley.
This is Tavis Smiley in conversation with noted philosopher Dr. Lewis Gordon, who is a regular on this program. I'm always honored to get him on whenever he can give us an hour, and he's been gracious enough to do that today. I want to get out of his way. That's my most important role whenever he comes on, is to stay out of his way and to let him teach a master class, which I love to audit for free. You get to audit for free today as well, this master class. Before I get out of his way and let him do his thing, he mentioned ethnocide as a precursor to these arguments, these debates. Joe Biden's on one side, many of us on the other side. This debate about genocide and whether or not genocide is in fact happening in Gaza. The president said yesterday, what's happening in Gaza is not genocide. What you are seeing is not genocide. Here's some sound before I yield to Dr. Gordon. Here's some sound from the ICC prosecutor Kareem Khan in conversation with Christine Amanpour at CNN defining genocide.
Well, this is an active investigation, and we have criminal charges that we can use: genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity. In relation to this current stage of investigations, the charges that we've put forward to the judges do not include genocide, but we are continuing to investigate. It's a very complex situation. We've not been allowed access into Gaza by the Israeli authorities. We're also continuing our investigations in relation to the Hamas attacks, and if and when the evidence points us in a particular direction, we will not hesitate to act. So it's still an active investigation, but yes, today we haven't.
What is extermination?
It's mass killing.
Different than genocide?
Yes. Genocide is defined by specific intent, not only killing, but an intention to destroy the group in whole or in part. So it's a specific intent to destroy the group in whole or in part. So we have not included in our application today a request for warrants for the crime of genocide.
So we have 3 words now, and I will shut up and yield to Dr. Gordon. Ethnocide, genocide, extermination. Dr. Gordon, the mic is yours.
Sure. These are all well, 2 of them are specific legal terms, which is mass killings and genocide. A lot of the listeners may not know that genocide wasn't what we know as genocide was not always illegal. In fact, the person who spearheaded the transformation and also coined the term genocide was a fellow by the name of Raphael Lipkin. Lipkin was outraged when he was a law student, and he was thinking particularly in terms of what was done to Armenians in Turkey, that the official position was that a sovereign country could do whatever it wants to its people. It could, if it wishes, kill every one of them. That was outrageous, and Lipkin basically fought to have a category under international law that we know today as genocide. And you can learn a lot more about this history. I highly recommend a book to the audience. It's by Barrett Holmes Pittner. He's an African-American journalist and philosopher. He wrote a book called A Crime Without a Name, Ethnocide and Genocide, ethnocide, ethnicity, etc. Now, Pittner points out that ethnocide is when, so there's a big difference. With genocide, you want to get rid of the actual biological, the people, the physical people. You want to just get rid of them. Okay, so that's mass murder, all kinds of other things like that, and you could set mechanisms in. You have the word geno in there, like genes. But ethnocide is a little more complicated. That's where you can have the physical people there, but their culture, their identity, all of that erased. Now, what happened in the past was the Emperor Adrian wanted both to get rid of Jews and to get physically and also ethnically, but that became a whole complicated matter. So for many of the Jews who were now in the place renamed by Adrian as Palestine, and in other words, it expanded the coastal area, which was Palestina, which is a longer, complicated story, but expanded that area over the whole region. So many ethnic groups were suddenly being called Palestinian, who were not historically Palestinian or historically Arab. Now, for the Jews inside that area called it Eretz Israel, the land of Israel, but legally outside of the area, they would refer to themselves as coming from the area of Palestine, which went through a whole lot of periods of colonization from the expansion of Islam and Arab colonization through to the Ottomans, and the list goes on and on. So that's I know we have a very short time, but that should give some context to some of the listeners. But in terms of Karim Khan is right. I mean, he was very specific in pointing out that, and in the case he filed, he did not put the word genocide. He put the word mass killing. Mm-hmm. What he's doing is setting the condition for investigations. But this is a more complicated matter. And some people really, people are already pissed off. But if you look at the charges he made, he's not making an equivocation. There are people who are erroneously reading it this way. He's being very specific about what Hamas did. There are unfortunately people who are romanticizing and trying to present Hamas as resistance. But the fact of the matter is those are not actions of resistance. No one, I think, could legitimately argue that Palestinians should not resist their degradation or not be involved in a struggle for statehood, etc. But once you begin to put in the kind of actions that happened on October 7th, those are already within the ambit of crimes against humanity. And what makes this even trickier is, you see, the International Criminal Court, Israel didn't sign on to it, so there's a complex, and the United States didn't either, so there's a complex jurisdictional issue, but Palestine did. So it's already in the purview of that court to be able to articulate whoever is claiming to represent Palestinians, what their actions, how to evaluate their actions. And the list is very straightforward. And the thing that really strikes me as very weird is the evidence is just so overwhelming, but we're having the equivalent of, of round earth deniers. There are people who are even claiming October 7th didn't happen, when the perpetrators even filmed them, recorded themselves committing these acts. So that is pretty straightforward. But that is very different from what Khan is raising in terms of Israel, because the Likud party, it's clear for the Likud party, which is, Benjamin Netanyahu's party and, Galant, it's clear that for the rest of the world and for many people, even people who are not Jews, there are people who celebrated what happened, but for most people, that was a tragedy. That was a horrific situation. But it's clear that for Netanyahu and his bunch, that was an opportunity. And this is where the situation is going to connect to some of the other things being talked about, because you see, the fact of the matter is a response needed to have been done, but everybody knows this, and as they witness it, it didn't have to be done in this way. And there are many, it'll take a long time to deal with military operatives and so forth, but the fact of the matter is there's no secret that Likud Party has an expansionist agenda. And within that framework, whether you're talking about the West Bank, whether just generally speaking, the situation that's going on there, it's clear that their actions are such that they're raising issues that the criminal court, right, the International Criminal Court, although they're not under its specific jurisdiction, all the other countries that are under its jurisdiction can come together and say, we don't accept these actions. And the people who conduct them, if they go into our territory, in other words, the signatories to the International Court, the Criminal Court, then they can be arrested and put on trial. And that's all they're doing.
Yeah.
So it strikes me that what he's saying is not only carefully crafted, but also there are those who would like to distort it by trying to claim that he's claiming that Hamas and Israel are equivocal in their actions.
So then
that's false.
Okay, got it. So then, based on what you just said, how then do you read President Biden coming out so forcefully yesterday, calling it, number one, outrageous, but then going on to suggest that it is a false equivalency? Biden fell for the banana in the tailpipe, if I hear what you're saying correctly.
Yeah, I'm saying that there are distorted issues here.
Yeah.
Because, the International Criminal Court is saying that their actions, they're documented, and that's what they put in their claims. In the course of their investigations, if they learn more, then they'll determine that.
Yeah.
They did not state genocide there. So, it becomes a straw man to argue about genocide.
No. For those who don't remember that reference, I was quoting the great philosopher. We're talking to a great philosopher now, Lewis Gordon. I was quoting the great philosopher, Eddie Murphy, about falling for the banana in the tailpipe. But I digress on that. Let me ask you right quick. I started with this, and you've given us a wonderful history lesson, which I deeply appreciate. I want to get a little more personal now. As a brilliant and noted American philosopher who is both black and Jewish, how are you personally reading and navigating this moment?
Well, you could already see, the kind of Jew I am is what used to be called a Mizrahi Jew. And this has become something very complicated. Because, you see, on the one hand, there were people who are Palestinian who are not Arabs, and there are people who are Palestinian who are Arabs. But we're dealing with a period right now where there is a form of reductive conception of national identity, and even the notion of an Arab that's being distorted. The identity of an Arab is being distorted into a racialized identity, which would create a situation that we're seeing not only in the Middle East, but it's happening across Africa as well, of actually where even people who are Muslim are insufficiently Arab enough because of the racialized identity. So there's going to be another complicated issue about how one defines a Palestinian. But outside of that, as a Jew, for me, you see, the thing is, I think as a human being about any kind of suffering, period. And right now, one of the things, but if you want to know the specificity about how I'm thinking about this as a Jew, I'm really concerned about the FUPA Jewphilia that's going on from the right. There's a way of talking about anti-Semitism as if it is the absolute marker through which to judge actions. The fact of the matter is, this is creating a situation, at least at the level of language, that is treating being Jewish as a superior moral category to any other category, which is highly problematic. I think that will actually stimulate even more anti-Semitism. The fact of the matter is that the situation of hate, whether it's, and that's why I prefer to refer to racism against Jews. The fact of the matter is racism is problematic regardless. But we have not seen a discourse, at least in the public arena, of the way we talk about racism that matches the way today anti-Semitism is being talked about. But the thing that really strikes me as well is there's also confusion between anti-Semitism and anti-Semites. And that's a subtle difference. But you, for instance, know the distinction that there are people out there who hate black people. But we know anti-black racism is the bolstering of institutional power behind that hatred. The fact of the matter is that, of course, I see there are people, including on the left, who are anti-Semites. But what I see also is that the institutions of power are such that those specific kinds of anti-Semites, in other words, those most left-oriented, moralistic types, they're not the people with institutional power. And what I'm concerned about is that the people with institutional power, who are also anti-Semites, are hiding under the cloak of a phony anti-Semitism in order to get their agenda across, because we already know the theme that we have going on. I'm so happy to hear that you're dealing with this theme, staying alive, not only with the Bee Gees song and all, but here's the thing that folks are missing. Across the world right now, the kind of regimes that are acquiring power, right? These autocratic, authoritarian, fascist regimes, they would make the kind of death and destruction we're seeing on the planet right now look like better times. In other words, we're talking about people whose agenda would have on the table actually greater levels, in fact, concerted aims of genocide, ethnocide, etc. And so we're talking about 8 billion people on the planet.
Yeah.
If we have these regimes in control right now, we're talking about maybe hundreds of millions of people being put to death.
I want to ask you, I'm looking at my clock now. It wouldn't be fair to give you 45 seconds to respond. Let me just tee this up, and when we come forward, I'll let you dig right into it, and I'll turn the mic back over to you. I want to ask you, to your point about anti-Semite and anti-Semitism, you were on a college campus, and we have all known over the last few weeks these protests on various campuses across the country, from California to the Carolinas. This notion of whether or not the definition of anti-Semitism has become too expansive, too liberal. I discussed on this program a few weeks ago, I guess a week or two ago, the notion that Malcolm's phrase, by any means necessary, is now seen as anti-Semitic in this particular context. I'm just wondering whether or not, as a philosopher, as a professor, you think that that whole term, anti-Semitism, that term has become too, the definition of it rather, too liberal, too expansive, too generous. We'll talk about that part when we come forward. In case you've just tuned in, our guest in this hour is Louis R. Gordon, an Afro-Jewish philosopher, one of the best in this country, a political thinker, educator, musician, who holds his PhD in philosophy from Yale, currently professor and head of the Department of Philosophy at the University of Connecticut at Storrs. That UConn, home of the men's national champions for 2 years in a row, 2023, 2024. I ain't mad at UConn. They got a great basketball team, but they've also got a great philosophy department, and the head of that department is our guest in this hour, Afro-Jewish philosopher Louis Gordon. More of him when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Unapologetically progressive. Unapologetically black. You're tapped into Tavis Smiley.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know the United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time? Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. A new lawsuit accuses former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin of using excessive force in the arrest of two individuals in 2020, months before he killed African-American George Floyd while also trying to make an arrest. The lawsuit goes on to accuse a second officer of failure to intervene at the time. The body camera footage of the arrest was made public Tuesday. Nestle is coming out with a new food line aimed at people who use weight management drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy. Called Vital Pursuit, the company says it's designed to offer a balanced diet for people looking for weight-friendly meals. The foods will feature high-protein meals and frozen options like pasta, sandwich melts, and pizza. The foods will be available for sale early next year. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Every business faces challenges, but shipping shouldn't be one of them. Turn shipping to your advantage with USPS Ground Advantage from the United States Postal Service. Learn how at USPS.com/advantage. USPS Ground Advantage. Simple, affordable, reliable.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Congratulations to the LA Sparks. They got their first win of the new WNBA season. The Sparks beat the Washington Mystics by 2 at the Pyramid at Long Beach State. Guard Lexi Brown led the Sparks with 20 points. Forward Derica Hamby had a double-double with 17 points and a game-high 18 rebounds. Both of LA's Major League Baseball teams lost last night. The Angels fall by 1 at Houston. The Dodgers lost at home by 4 to Arizona. Mookie Betts was 0 for 3 on his bobblehead night. Interesting times for Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford. Stafford participated in the Rams' first day of organized team practice activities despite his demands for more guaranteed money or an extension. Stafford signed a 4-year deal worth $160 million in 2022, but his contract is not guaranteed after the 2024 season. Keep your radar up to see how Stafford handles this situation. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Race, culture wars, political turf battles, criminal justice and injustice, the courts. These are the conversations you won't hear elsewhere. My guests are leading journalists, celebrities, and sports figures, elected leaders, and influencers. They aren't afraid to get into it and say the quiet part out loud. With Ariva Martin in real time, your commute just became the most engaging part of your day. Tune in weekdays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. or find us on YouTube. Ariva Martin in real time, when you want it straight, no chaser.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. Around here, we don't believe in victimhood. We believe in raising our voices, amplifying black voices in the climate conversation. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
Mattress Firm's Memorial Day sale is here. Get a Sleepy's Queen mattress at the lowest price ever, just $89.99. This deal ends Tuesday, so don't wait. Visit Mattress Firm and save over 60%. In-store pickup only, while supplies last. Find your nearest one today.
We used to argue about whose turn it was to clean the gutters, but then I had Leaf Filter gutter protection installed.
Wait, I told you Leaf Filter had free inspections and estimates and a lifetime guarantee.
Meaning we never have to argue about whose turn it is to clean the gutters again.
But I visited leaffilter.com/beacon first.
No, I did.
It doesn't matter who. Visit leaffilter.com/beacon to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off today.
See representative for warranty details. Promotion is 20% off plus a 10% senior or military discount. One discount per household.
When you use Bounce dryer sheets and your clothes look amazing, it's the sheet. Less static in your life? Yeah, it's the sheet. Smelling fresher than ever? It's the sheet. Oh, so soft fabric? Ooh la la. It's the sheet. Less wrinkles on your clothes? You know it's the sheet. Bounce dryer sheets. More freshness, more softness. Less static, less wrinkles. It's the sheet.
Ready to re-examine your assumptions and expand your inventory of ideas? More of Tavis Smiley coming your way right now.
More of Dr. Lewis Gordon coming your way right now. In case you just tuned in, Afro-Jewish philosopher. A regular contributor to this program, or as often as we can get him on. But I always look forward to these hours with him. As I say all the time on this program, at our best, what we are attempting to do is to get you to re-examine the assumptions that you hold. At our best, we're trying to help expand your inventory of ideas and allow you a different prism through which to see the world. And Dr. Lewis Gordon always does all of that and then some for me. And I'm happy to share him with you on our program today in this hour. You were talking moments ago about anti-Semitism, anti-Semite. Of course, they are not exactly the same thing. But my question was, and you can take it anywhere you want to take it as always, but my question was whether or not you think over the last few weeks we have seen the definition of anti-Semitism become too expansive, become too liberal. I don't want to ever get to a place in this country, and I think one could argue we're already there, where any critique of the nation state of Israel is deemed anti-Semitic. Dr. Gordon.
Okay, well, there's several things. The first thing I'd like to bring up is, despite pointing out the misrepresentations at work by arguing about equivocation, I found it very interesting that both Sinwar, the head of Hamas, and Netanyahu, with Likud, I found it very interesting that both of them resorted to defining themselves and all they represent as victims. It's rather striking. And one of the reasons I bring this up, of course, is because there is a kind of problematic reasoning that happens when a people define themselves as intrinsically a victim. If you're intrinsically a victim, it means even when you harm others, you are the victim. Now that means that you can do anything. You have license to do anything you would like.
He's going deep. Keep going.
So, but if you look at this, so in effect, both are saying that they should have absolute immunity for their actions. That their actions should be the form of what I call license. So I think what the ICC is doing is saying nobody's above the law, nobody's unaccountable, and this segues into the point you're making. If any country takes the position that it should never be criticized, that it's so intrinsically just and innocent, then you have created an idol. You would create a group or a country that can literally do what it would like to anybody without any responsibility for its actions. And that's profoundly dangerous. And I got to tell you, as a Jew, my position is also that is actually anti-Jewish. In Judaism, we actually have an edict that we are not supposed to adhere to idols, and to make a state into an intrinsically innocent phenomenon, an intrinsically good phenomenon. It's idolatry. So that's a Jewish argument. But a more but beyond that argument, there is outside of the idea. It's absolutely ridiculous to say any criticism of the state of Israel makes you an anti-Semite. That's just absolutely ridiculous. But there are people who do criticize Israel through an anti-Semitic position, precisely because they're not criticizing other countries who do the same things. And even more, there are countries who are out there whom they're supporting that do these things. And I'm talking about not only would you see with a variety of countries across the Middle East, but with the jihadism that's going on across Africa. Right now, there are more black people. There's a whole world of anti-black racism coming out of for varieties of Arab-dominated countries that are receiving no real critique or response or international response at all. And this is so, but nevertheless, what's being romanticized is a position that, in effect, would be the establishment of kinds of societies that many people who are supporting them would not want to live in. But that's one. So that's where the anti-Semitic part comes in. But here's another thing that we have to think through. I actually take the position the problem isn't that anti-Semitism is being too expansive. I think the problem is that it's too damn narrow. And here's what I mean.
Okay.
When we say anti-Semitism, we only think about Jews. The word Semite was a linguistic thing to refer to the Arabic language, you know what I mean? Amharic, a variety of other languages. My background is not only Palestinian and also Jews from Ireland, but also Jews from Ethiopia, Beta Israel. And so the idea that there are people in Ethiopia who speak Semitic languages, or people who are not Jewish, and there are people across the Middle East who are Semites who are not Jewish. So there's already an injustice in reducing the term exclusively to Jews. However, so in other words, this is a conflict, particularly when we look at the Middle East, of Semites against Semites. But now here's where there's the other part coming. This is why in a lot of my writings, I prefer to refer specifically when I'm talking about Jews to anti-Jewish racism. And that seems to me to be something rather accurate. A lot of these people would not be in front of university campuses and protesting if it weren't the state of Israel. If there are other states who are doing these things, they'll look the other way.
Yeah.
Now in terms of the point with El-Malik al-Shabazz, I prefer to say his name, but Malcolm X for the audience.
Before you go to Brother Malcolm, very quick follow up. I don't want to stop your flow here. With regard to my question about anti-Semitism and the definition over the last few weeks or so becoming too expansive, too liberal, I take your point that it's too narrow. My question is whether or not it's both and or either or. Are we both right? Is it both and or is it either or?
I do. No. I don't think it's that both are right. I do think right now the fact of the matter is we're dealing with a form of bad faith implementation of the concept of anti-Semitism.
Okay. I don't disagree with that latter point, but I would disagree with you respectfully on the first part. I think it's both and. I think I am right and you are right. I think you are right, given your brilliant response, that the definition is too narrow. In that sense, I totally agree with you. But I also think that in this current debate, where the word anti-Semitism keeps getting thrown around, we're throwing things under that banner that I think don't fit, and I think that's dangerous to misdefine a word.
Yeah, I misunderstood you. I see what you're saying. No, you're totally correct.
It's both, okay, got it.
What you're saying is being loosely rallied about. That's right. Totally true.
That's right.
That's absolutely true.
Now, to your point about...
that's one of the reasons I brought up the Philo-Semites, right? The Philo-Jewish people, right? They hate Jews, but it's very convenient for them to say anti-Semitism because they want to use it against the left.
And you are almost always right, and you're especially right about this point. And that's why I said earlier, I love having you on. You make me think about things I never thought about. I never thought about the term being too narrow, that we only use it when it comes to Jews, and that's reductionist in and of itself. I'm watching my clock here. Let me do this. When we come forward, we'll get right to Dr. Gordon's point about Brother Malcolm that I want to hear, and I'm sure you want to hear as well. You're listening to Dr. Lewis Gordon, and I'm glad about it on Tavis Smiley.
This is getting good. Yeah, man. Tavis Smiley continues when we come forward.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
KBLA Talk 1580 is the fastest growing talk radio station in Southern California, home to 50,000 watts and an audience reach of 12 million listeners. KBLA Talk 1580 is a pioneer for Black audio content, including our groundbreaking $2 million climate justice campaign and the most loyal, influential audience. According to an independent research study by the polling firm Aviterus, for the second consecutive year, KBLA Talk 1580 is the most trustworthy, reliable, and credible news source for Black audiences and beyond in Southern California. Let KBLA Talk 1580 power your advertising dollars. Our omni-channel custom marketing solutions are specifically tailored to connect with your ideal target audience. We leverage audio, podcasts, streaming, digital, social media, and local activations to get your message out to the Black community. Get in touch with our advertising team today at advertising@KBLA1580.com. That's advertising at KBLA1580.com. KBLA 1580. We've got you Black.
Hi, I'm Henry Winkler. My eyes are very important to me. My eyes connect me with everything I love. I loved my late father-in-law dearly. He always lit up a room, but his vision dimmed with age. He had age-related macular degeneration, or AMD. And since partnering with Apellis, I've learned there's an advanced form of dry AMD called geographic atrophy, or GA. His struggle with vision loss made me want to help others know about GA's warning signs. For some, colors appear dull or washed out. For others, hazy or blurred vision make it hard to see details, like fine print on price tags. Many have trouble seeing in the dark, making driving at night difficult. GA gets worse over time and cannot be reversed. If you think you have GA, don't wait. Treatments are available. Ask a retina specialist about FDA-approved treatments for GA and go to GAWon'tWait.com.
Who do you trust to get at the truth? Tavis Smiley. That's who. The conversation continues right now.
You can trust more than me to get at the truth. You can trust Dr. Lewis Gordon to help get at the truth. I recognize that neither he nor I, have a monopoly on the truth. I recognize there's the truth and there's the way to the truth. You got to be humble enough to understand that everybody may not know the truth that you know, but when you know the truth, you have a responsibility to share it. And I'm always happy to listen to the truth as he knows it of Dr. Lewis Gordon. You were telling me you were about to get into that Malcolm thing. Take it away, Dr. Gordon.
Sure. The crucial word that El Malik al-Shabazz used was necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Necessary is the crucial word. He didn't say by any means.
Yes.
he said by any means necessary.
That's right.
Now, look, Hamas was pissed off that Saudi Arabia was trying to normalize relations with Israel. It went by any means, but it didn't. But the means it used were not the necessary ones. It was not necessary to do those things to those people on October 7th. Similarly, Israel, in its response, okay, the idea that it was necessary to kill 35,000, going up 40,000 people, no. There are many historical examples of why this is so. For instance, if we already know the U.S.'s response to 9/11 killed so many people, and it had so many problems with it. But under the Obama administration, the response to Al-Qaeda was very straightforward. You use reconnaissance and you take them out. There's a reality that if there was a real commitment to the lives of the people, there was a tactically different way to have enacted this campaign that would have had more people alive and could have also undermined Hamas. But that's not the path taken. And it wasn't taken for another reason. And the reason is that there's something that the Likud party and Hamas have in common, which is both are antipathetic to a two-state solution. Hamas wants one state, and that is one without Jews in them, to just eradicate them out.
Yeah.
And the problem is Likud wants one state, and that's without Palestinians and lots of others in them. So the issue, and this segues, I think, into another thing that's in the news, because you see, the problem with these two right-wing positions is that right-wing positions tend to be premised upon war as a solution, not political solutions. The idea is, and when you're in war, there is only one objective, the elimination of the enemy. So we're not talking about what a genuine political commitment would be, but this is where Ireland, Spain, and Norway come in. And it's not just them, many other countries. Because you see, right now, a lot of the world is fed up. They see this ongoing cycle, this stalemate situation, and what they're trying to do is to create the political situation in which there's a viability of a Palestinian state, a viability of a Palestinian state coexisting with an Israeli state. That is something that Hamas doesn't want, and certain other individuals, including possibly Iran, doesn't want. I just say that because these things are constantly shifting. They have explicitly said they don't want it, but or Hezbollah, but that's another matter. But the thing is, here's where the situation comes to the fore. Why two states instead of, say, one democratic state? Well, one of the things is Israel keeps using the word democracy. But if in the United States, there are people who take the position that the United States is a democracy so long as it is majority white ruled. Well, as long as Israel takes the position, it's a democracy as long as it's specifically a particular religious or ethnic or racial group who rule. That is FUPA democracy. That's not really democracy. So it's pretty clear that if that's going to be the commitments, then you got to have two states.
Yeah.
So this response is a necessary response to an untenable set of commitments.
He broke that, Malcolm. He broke that line down, didn't he? As many times as I have said it, as many times as I have heard it, I've never heard it quite broken down like that. Brother Malcolm said, by any means necessary. And we get stuck on the by any means part. We forget about the necessary part and don't want to unpack that. And that's why you talk to Dr. Lewis Gordon, who's on Tavis Smiley.
More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminding you that we keep us safe. Pro Football Hall of Famer and urban peace pioneer Jim Brown believed in just that. So he founded the Amera I Can Foundation for Social Change in 1988, focusing on at-risk and high-risk youth in underserved schools and juvenile detention facilities, as well as adult incarceration and reentry initiatives. The core of the Amera I Can program is its 15-chapter life skills curriculum. Mastery of these skills allows individuals to meet their academic potential, conform their behavior to acceptable societal standards, and improve the quality of their lives by equipping them with what they need to confidently and successfully contribute to society. Today, the foundation is led by its president, Monique Brown, who has been actively involved in the organization for more than 25 years. The Amera I Can Foundation continues its work in memory of its founder, actor, philanthropist, and NFL legend Jim Brown. To get involved or make a donation, please visit AmeriICanCommunity.partners. That's AmeriICanCommunity.partners. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
My mom has taken up going to the park to practice yoga.
My dad's going to a club, but not a book club, a salsa club.
Finding new hobbies comes with age.
My mom has started getting lost and not knowing where she's going.
Becoming lost or disoriented doesn't. Confusion with time or place may be a sign of Alzheimer's. An early diagnosis can help improve the quality of life for your loved one. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Don't shave with that, son. You'll get razor bumps.
Nah, Pops. I'm good with Gillette's Skin Guard. How long you been growing that beard anyway? You know Mama hates it.
Yeah, had it since my last wet shave in 77. Got ingrown so bad, looked like I was growing a patch of new noses.
That's why I use the Gillette Skin Guard razor, face scrub, shave gel, and moisturize, so I don't have to worry about new razor bumps or shaving irritation.
Gillette Skin Guard, huh? Your mama's gonna love this one.
Smart talk for curious people just like you. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Dr. Lewis Gordon, who I've enjoyed, again, this conversation immensely. Doc, it's been so rich. I got a few minutes left here. I want to just cover one or two other things right quick here. We've been talking about the world as we are trying to navigate it in real time. How concerned are you? I'm tying again this entire show in together. Back to the first hour. We had a guest on today, a brilliant pollster, African American, and Christopher shared with us in our first hour that his polling data suggests to him, wait for it, that Joe Biden is going to lose this election. He was very firm about that. And he said it because he's been tracking black voters in particular and doesn't see a whole lot that Joe Biden is doing or may do between now and November to shift that number enough to save the day. We all know that black people saved the Biden campaign the first time around, or I should say 4 years ago. Black women got behind him after he promised to put a black woman on the U.S. Supreme Court. He did that, KBJ. Anyway, don't want to eat up all this time, the few minutes I have left. But his point was that Biden's going to lose. I only raise that because we can debate that, at another time. But assuming that Joe Biden, with all the difficulty he's having navigating this crisis in the Middle East, assuming that he loses to Donald Trump, how scared are you of that existential threat that Trump represents for this nation with the Middle East and beyond if the unthinkable happens again?
I think it would be a global disaster, not just for us, but for the rest of the world, because it will gather momentum for fascism worldwide. And the thing about fascism is that fascism, let me reformulate it just to give you a sense.
Sure.
I've been meditating a lot on the concept of evil. Most people, when they talk about evil, tend to talk about it in religious and supernatural terms. But there's a secular, ordinary, everyday way of thinking about evil. And what evil is when one is consumed by so much hatred that one is willing to destroy the world just to satisfy harming what one hates. Now, all right. Now, I think there have been religious ways of depicting this. One of the most brilliant ones is Dante's Inferno, whereas at the center of hell, there is the devil so frozen with hatred he cannot move, but nearby there are two men, one of whom is so consumed with hatred that although he's frozen from the neck down, he reaches over and chews on the skull of the other person. The thing about it is when people are so reduced to themselves, or that there is no room for others. Yeah. You talk a lot, Tavis, about love. Yeah. The thing about love is capacious. It always recognizes that there are others. Fascism is anti-love. It's premised upon hate. It's about eliminating others. So the disaster that what we're seeing in Israel, Palestine, and a few other places like the Sudan and those would just be a walk in the park compared to what would be in store.
That is not a happy note on which to end, but it is a sobering note on which to end. What an amazing show this has been today, and this is how you close it. Mic drop with Dr. Lewis Gordon. Doc, we will do it again. I always look forward to it, man. I don't know when again will happen, but I'm looking forward to it whenever it is. And as always, I thank you for your insights. You make us think, brother.
Thank you so much, Tavis. And I got to say one last thing.
Yes.
Which is, I hope when we speak again, everything I just said was wrong.
On that note, that does close the show, right? Because Dr. Gordon wants to be wrong about what he said in this last hour, and Christopher wants to be wrong about what he said in the first hour. So everybody hopefully will be wrong today in the months to come. But I'll be right back here tomorrow, Lord willing. Until then, and as always, keep the faith.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black